Welcome to Gettin to Market for when your job is real, but your role is negotiable. I'm Nate. My negotiable role is product marketing. John?
Hey, Nate. My name is John. My negotiable role is product management. And I like this idea that we're just starting out with it being negotiable. It's just a
Yeah,
base assumption. We just know this.
we know it. Um, Happy belated, well, I was going to say belated Father's Day, but I believe, do you still make your kids celebrate Father's Day for 2 weeks?
Yep, it's the two
They
week
just,
Father's
yeah,
Day. Yeah, and actually, my wife's birthday is at the end of the month,
yeah.
and Father's Day takes over that as well. So that's what we do for her birthday is we end the Father's Day celebration.
And you've said no handmade, no art gifts.
Yeah,
It is stuff that they pay cash for or gift cards. Yeah.
yeah, you're totally right. I'm glad we're talking about this. It's an important thing to note too that I want to be, come across as of the people. So while
Yeah.
I won't say the dollar amount limit, it's important to note there is a dollar minimum.
And they it's like inverse Hanukkah for them. It's like every day they're coming to you with coming to the altar with some new gifts.
Inverse Hanukkah. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, that's really great. Our Father's Day was great. It was nice. We didn't actually do anything and
Nothing.
nothing. And
All right.
I'm, I think I was supposed to cook breakfast. That's like
Yeah.
a Miller family thing. I don't want to cause any fights in our family, but I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and say that I make the best biscuits in our family.
Oh,
So our kids,
cat's head biscuits? What kind of biscuits are we talking about?
no, well, I don't know. I feel like that just cat's head means oversized, and they're the right size.
Yeah.
I make the right size
The right size.
biscuits.
Okay.
I
I
think
mean,
when
this
this
is
product management thing doesn't
yeah.
keep working out and I'm done with it, or whether I get told that or not, I'll start a food truck for biscuits and just drive around selling breakfast biscuits. That would actually be a lot of fun.
I do feel like since this is getting to market, we have to have some like biscuit takes if we're going to drop the G. We have to have some opinions on biscuits and the best type of biscuits. Have you been to Biscuit Head? Have you
I
been to Biscuit Head?
I have been to Biscuit Head. For any listeners outside of the Asheville area, Biscuit Head is
So
some
popular
so
globally.
popular. Some might
It's
say
like McDonald's.
more popular than its food warrants. I'd say they're wrong. I'm a Biscuit
Yeah.
Head fan. I think it's good stuff. Anyway, how was your Father's Day? Happy belated Father's Day to you as well.
Appreciate it. It was good. We met my parents midway. So, for those who aren't familiar with North Carolina geography, that means the small town of Greensboro. So, we met them for some breakfast brunch.
I was hoping you were to describe what midway was to people. It's like I think they get it.
Oh, yes. No, I mean, we need mile markers in this conversation. And
Good,
yeah.
good.
Today's topic, John, I think is a really cool one, which is you and I both have been in the interview process lately for folks that we're trying to add to our teams. But we wanted to spend some time today talking through some of the things that we ask in interviews and what we might be looking for when we ask these. This is not advice or a key to winning at all of your interviews or even your interviews with us, but just some things that I think resonate with us that you could possibly have in your toolbox if you are asked similar questions in interviews. John, I think we have a list here. You want me to ask you one of yours and you can tell me how you'd answer it?
I do think it's funny with interviews to think if you're good, bad, or otherwise, because it is factually true. You have lost more interviews. You have not gotten the
Yeah.
job more often than you've gotten the job.
I mean, I would love to talk to a person who has a win record better than like 500, right?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
their interview to job offer rate.
Yeah.
That must be something.
Yeah. One role I got to get into a company, I was on a volleyball court with people that I knew, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to have an open house." It was probably more that I was in an interview and I didn't realize it. And they're like,
Yeah.
"We're going to have an open house. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And I went. And then this part is a little foggy. I think how the conversation went at the open house was something to the effect of, "Do you think you can start coming on Monday?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool." And I was working for myself at the time, and which means I
Yeah.
wasn't working.
Was the job volleyball related?
No, not at all.
Is there a secret to not jacking up your wrists when playing volleyball?
I think being 6'4" is the secret. Yeah, that's my situation.
Yeah. All right. I have not been in that position. Have had to interview for many a role, and many a role I did not get. But okay, first question, John. what is a situation where a good engineering idea was a bad business idea? How would you answer this?
I have asked people,
Yeah.
and I think the intent to asking is really to understand how much of a business mind they have and how much of that business
Okay.
mind they bring to product management. This
All right.
discipline in day to day, and really just knowing, will this idea actually make money for the business, is a hard thing to do regularly. So I'll tell you a different story. This isn't exactly that. So I love music, and I wanted to work for digital instrument manufacturer. In an interview there, this was a number of years ago, they asked me a product effort that I was proud of. We were with an organization, or I was with an organization, made some really cool tech. We were really excited about it. And Apple kind of sort of Sherlocked us, and took it over and did it. But they did it really well on tech backend that we didn't have to manage or own. It was really hard for us to do well. And they took it, did it, and made it a real thing, and really codified this thing that we were charging after, is thinking is really important, as like it almost like validated that, yep, that was the right idea. So anyway,
Yeah.
in the interview, they're like, what's an increment that you were proud of? And I talked about that and work that I did on that and got to do with the team. I inherited some, I didn't come up with anything. um, and so they were like, wait, and then Apple stole it and you were happy with that? And I was like, it was the best, it was awesome. And I think that right then and there I realized, well, I'm not getting this job. And that was the end of that. It was really funny.
Okay. So someone comes to you with that type of story. They pass that question for you.
I think so. Yeah, that's a good conversational question to just get someone talking, and that's been really interesting. Yeah, I feel like the one that I don't know enough about, how I would test for AI to know if someone uses that. But if someone came to you in an interview and said, "Hey, how do you use AI to write content better, product market better?" How would you talk about that?
So I will say, like, because I have been using this interview question when interviewing folks, and the answer that I got a fair number of times, but it was kind of a red flag, is it's immediately like, yes, I use it, but, and then they caveat it with like all the reasons they don't really trust AI and how like they're a better writer than AI, which is fine, but it is like a kind of black and white response to a question that I think just in the last year requires more nuance than it did like a year ago. And I think it's like, show me by example where it makes you faster at your job. And it isn't even about like the quality so much as it is like you have found ways for it to take up some of like product marketing has more toil in it than I think maybe some people talk about. Like, you write something, and then when you go to upload that to your content management system, you have to come up with a description for what that thing is, or then you have to come up with the copy for the social post so that the social team can post it to social media. So to me, a better answer for that is like some examples of how you have just started relying on it to save you time, because it doesn't really matter sometimes like whether or not the quality of what the AI gives you. It still saves you time because you're not having to start with like a blank sheet and come up with something. Because I think in a lot of companies now, because of AI, it is more about like how quickly you can do stuff than it is how well you do it. And maybe that's terrible, but
That feels like an AI hot take.
I mean, maybe it is, but speed matters.
Yeah.
And I think proving out ways that you're fast at something, I think, is a value in an interview for sure.
Are you, with the AI in particular, are you actually that curious about their use of AI, or more like, is the question behind the question, how do you adapt and leverage new tools as they come up?
At any company, no matter what your tech stack is, you do have to adopt some things, and some of those things are likely to be new. And how quickly you can adopt to a process that might not make sense to you and isn't your process, you didn't stand it up, like, that is an important question. I mean, it's a fair thing to ask somebody, is like, how rigid are you about the things that you've learned at past doors? I think you talked about this recently. Maybe we're stealing content from a future episode, but it is like, not everything that you learned someplace previously needs to fit piece and parcel whatever into the new process at another company.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. When you're talking to people, do you ever ask how well they, like, who's your best partner inside the organization? Like, what teams do you work with a lot? I mean, maybe more directly, do you ever say, how well do you work with product management? Tell me about your experience with your John equivalent. And then they just cry.
You know what I ask is like, what do you do when your relationship? It's usually a question that's like, what do you do when your relationship with a team isn't very like positive?
Uh-oh. Are we okay?
I don't know. Do I need to talk about you behind your back? But I think it's a good question. Is like, how do they know when to escalate? I don't know.
Mm,
Do you ask something similar? Like, I think it is. It's a critical question of like, how do you navigate some of those relationships effectively? Because a lot of our work is cross functional,
hmm.
and you've got to kind of be able to like not always make friends, but it is like have productive relationships with teams that sometimes have different goals than you do.
Yeah. There's a part of the cross-functional question where I think I'm actually asking, do you know what you're not so good at and how to go get help with that?
Oh,
You
that's a
know,
good one.
where who do you spend the most time with because it's a thing you can't do by yourself? Sales. I spent a lot of time with sales today. There's not a lot I can do to help get to our bookings number. I need their help. And so you just like those
Yeah.
relationships in knowing where you need the help the most, whether it's because you don't know the skill or because you can't achieve the outcome by yourself is like almost the thought behind that type of question.
How do you, in an interview, kind of try to surface things that might be like yellow or red flags?
I don't know that I'm very good at surfacing red flags explicitly. I think in conversation, you can hear when people are soft in their answer. And so then I just dig down into that. And so I'm almost looking for those sorts of things. I would rather have someone just say, like, hey, I don't know about that, and I'm learning about that, or this is what I want to do, than my radar goes off when I hear a BS answer. And I'm like, ooh, tell me about that. And then they go, and then, I kind of countenance changes a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question that I ask in interviews, but then if you could kind of give how you would answer it, or want it answered, is asking about a launch that didn't go so well, and how did you know it didn't go well?
The times that there are product launch issues that are because of quality, what we did about that was just own it, and we have to be clear with the customer base, and just like, hey, this was here, this is what happened. There's like language habits that I have in that where talk about the problem only and not maybe you've noticed this in just our communications, but I try not to say the word you. And that kind of goes back to some of this stuff where you didn't do anything. The software did something that wasn't what we wanted. And
Hmm.
because of that, you might be experiencing some bad stuff and we're sorry for that. Like that sort of thing. But it wasn't like, well, you clicked this box wrong and this thing happened and whatever.
Uh,
So owning it is the end version of that. But
I don't think I noticed that Jedi mind trick of never using you. So I one of the things that I like about this question is it gives them an opportunity to talk about data, and I think one of the things, curious how you feel about this, that is kind of like a yellow flag for me is when someone very early on is like, I'm data driven, or data is really important to me, or we're like really data driven, or have a really data driven approach, and there's never really any specificity and examples around that, or they feel very like rote. And this to me is like gives you an opportunity to say like, this launch didn't go well and we knew because of X, which was like adoption, or like bookings or whatever. And that ability to kind of bring in specific metrics is kind of a way to help reinforce, like if you do talk about being data driven, that like you actually are. And then another thing that I think this does is like in the interview process, I don't know, I'm sure you've encountered this sometimes, is like you'll ask for like examples or stories, and the person is kind of repeating the same example like multiple
oh,
times
right.
for that, like these different examples. And so it's like, oh, for this it was this story, I know it's actually that same story for this example, and then this other example is also this story. It's like, I think it's important for folks interviewing to have like a couple of examples in their pocket that sound very different and are different.
That feels like you said at the beginning, we're not going to get any interview tricks, but that idea of
Yeah.
having different stories for different situations ready to go. Cause you get into that seat and you're stressed out. Like I always feel like the candidate is
Yeah.
just having a weird day.
Yeah.
And I've had to stop asking, is now still a good time to talk? Yes, of course it is, you clown. Like that person was sitting there waiting for you to call. It's a good time.
Oh
They're
man.
ready for you. They're
Yeah,
probably more ready than
they
you
are.
are.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it is. For folks that have not been in the kind of like opposite position, it is kind of stressful both ways. So please feel assured that it isn't just stressful for you as the candidate. John, what lessons did you learn? You were traveling last week, right? Any lessons learned from that?
Yeah, I was traveling last week, had some user conferences and got to meet some people. It was really great. And as is the case with most conferences, you end up at the vendor, we were vendor that was there, and you end up with a bunch of other vendors that do something similar to you. And
Sure.
so really you're just like around all your competitors. And I
Yeah.
noticed at the beginning that I wasn't,
Throwing elbows.
yeah, well, I mean, like I wasn't even making eye contact. And then like
Yeah.
I was like, these are just like people and they're probably
Yeah.
kind and nice and they're not bad people and they're actually pretty similar to you and they want to help in a very similar way that you want to help. And all that to say, I ended up sitting down at this lunch round table talking about AI, ended up on accident sitting next to a competitor and very nice person. And I had a really nice conversation with them and the other, individuals that were sitting, the other participants, I guess. So it was good just to have that reminder, maybe more than a new lesson learned, that you actually have a lot in common with your competitors and you're trying to help in the same way and they're not bad people and they don't hate you.
Counterpoint, competitors are not human. They're evil, and you should never work or eat near them.
No eating near competitors. Then a bumper sticker.
No eating with your competitors. Um, my lesson learned is kind of a personal one. So my father has aphasia and some like frontal temporal stuff going on, which makes it more difficult for him to kind of be able to communicate with us, and kind of has shifted the trajectory of like what he maybe was anticipating for the later years of his life. He traveled a lot when I was a kid for work. He was doing like every week he was traveling, especially when I was really little. And he just has like such immense regret for the amount of time he was traveling and away from us. As a kid, I don't know that like you're clocking all of that. Like they're just, when they're there, and that's like great. But to me, like looking back, it doesn't feel like a big gap in his being there for us or being around us. And I think it's just important for us, like you and I, we've got pretty demanding jobs. We've also got kids. I think it is like the idea that like maybe the kids don't always clock when we're prioritizing or feel like we're prioritizing one or the other, but like maybe we feel it 30 or 40 years from now. And so maybe it's like a reminder to us of like, how do we want to prioritize our time, and not just for the kids, but like for ourselves, like what memories do we want to make and remember? And it just makes me think like, you've only got limited time, so spend the time how you want to spend it and make the decisions that are right for you. But like, it's not just the kid that might not remember, or might remember like when you worked late and weren't there for dinner, but maybe it's you too that like remembers when you weren't there for that dinner. And hate to feel that come up and bite you when you get older.
That feels like a heavier lesson than I learned and a good reminder.
They were equal. At any rate, John, always fun to talk. We release episodes every Tuesday, so whether or not you're listening to this on a Tuesday or not, but please like and subscribe. That does help us. And thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, bud.
Bye.